Hey everyone, it's Allie, and in today's video, I want to discuss a burning question I've seen a lot of people have about the game, which is simply, is Torchlight Infinite pay to win? And what I want to do in today's video is actually go over what exactly makes it pay to win and just discuss all of it, as I feel like a lot of people are either misinformed or just get told it's pay to win and don't really look into it any further. What I also want to show you is that it doesn't actually matter as much as people think it does, and that it's not really something that you have to do or interact with, and it's not going to be something that ruins your experience with the game. This video is going to be from the perspective of me having about 100 or so hours in the game, playing both in season 1 through 3 and playing the game now again 2 years later. And while sure I haven't experienced the game at the extreme high end with builds that cost hundreds of thousands of FE, I do have quite a lot of friends who've made insane items in the game, spent hundreds of thousands of FE on their build, and have thousands of hours in the game. And between my personal experience, everything, and the discussions I've had with them, I feel like I've formulated a pretty decent opinion on the topic. I would be interested to do this video again in the future to see if my opinion has changed, but realistically, for most people, I don't think that's going to necessarily matter, and it's mostly going to be a question that they're going to want to know the answer to in their first few hours or days of the game, and how much that's going to get impacted by the quote-unquote pay-to-win aspects of it. So without further ado, let's get into everything and discuss what exactly makes Torchlight Infinite pay to win. There's two things they could technically classify as pay to win. First off, in the shop itself, there are things you could purchase that might make your life a little bit easier. For example, you could buy a level up capsule, which just instantly boosts a character through the campaign and gets them to level 86. Which you do need a level 86 character to actually be able to purchase, so you can't just skip the start of a season with this, for about $10 or so, which honestly is kind of a meme, given it takes about an hour to get through the campaign if you know what you're doing, and it only takes you maybe 3-4 hours to get to 86 if you're playing a second character and you have a bunch of extra gear. There's a bunch of other stuff in here, but honestly, it's all very minor. And the cool thing is that the majority of this, it uses Jagged Primal Cyst, which is a currency the game loves to shower you in. So, for example, if you want to buy a bunch of inventory expansions, you'll have thousands of Primal Cysts given to you every single season, so you can very easily just keep making your inventory bigger and bigger and bigger infinitely, if that's something you really care about. While the shop might just have a bunch of conveniences in it and be kind of whatever, the true system that a lot of people have an issue with and call the game pay to win because of is going to be the Pactspirits system. What you can do in Torchlight is you can have 3 pets as battle Pactspirits, which will then give you additional bonuses. For example, this one gives me Allie res and a little bit of DR and some XP gain and some more DR. And you can also have drop Pactspirits, which will then give you additional currency while doing different content. The thing about these Pactspirits is that the way you acquire them is completely tied to a gacha system where you have to use spins on a banner to roll for whatever characters you want to. Every season, the game will release 2 new premium battle Pactspirits, but the way these extra premium spirits work is that they're not meant to be a direct power creep over their previous iterations, and they're instead just meant to be a new Pactspirit that fits in a different niche. To give you an example in PoE terms, this sniper elf lady, for example, might specifically give you bonuses for lightning poison hit-based builds because there isn't a Pactspirit for that specific niche yet. These characters are typically meant to be something that you'd want to consider to get for whatever the newest character is. And if you are, for example, playing a Chaos Dot base build in Torchlight, you would have literally zero reason to use your spins to roll for these characters. At the same time, if you did want these, the game is extremely generous on giving you a bunch of spins to use for free. And unless you get super unlucky, pretty much every single season, you'll have more than enough of this currency to be able to get both of the characters at their default level without any issue. Where this does get pay to win and could potentially be problematic is the fact that this works exactly like any other sort of progression system in gacha games, where I can get multiple copies of this horse girl, for example, and make her significantly stronger. By default, my horse girl gives me 16% more elemental damage, and if I were to get a second copy of her, I can use it to then make her give me an extra stack, upping the 16% more to 20%. If I were to get a third copy, each stack would give me double the amount, so I would get 40% total damage from this, and so on and so forth, up to about a 90% total DPS increase in comparison to the 16% that a default horse girl would give me. If you haven't played Torchlight yet, that sounds kind of spooky. They can get up to 90% more damage by just simply giving the game several hundreds of dollars, but this character at level 6 is only going to give you maybe about 10% more damage. The reason behind that is that this game has a lot of 100% more damage multipliers on it, to where the 90% more from the horse girl really just kind of becomes a drop in the bucket. For example, the character I'm currently playing, Rosa 2, basically gives me over 100% more damage from every single one of these points, which are effectively my ascendancy for my class, and the 90% more would just be in a drop in the bucket. There's also a lot of items in the game that give you insane power boosts, In this game, we have something like Archmage Hands, which just gave me 100% more spell damage at all times just for stacking a bunch of mana. Because of that, you aren't really incentivized to spin and spend money on these characters, as they really are very tiny power boosts in comparison to their default levels. The other thing to mention is that you're also going to get yourself quite a lot of the epic ones, and most of these legendary ones typically have an epic variation that is effectively the same thing, with the only difference being that the major node in the middle is not the same, and that's where the majority of the power comes from in these legendary Pactspirits. The thing is that you're going to get yourself quite a lot of copies of these, and because of that, you can upgrade these, and in most cases, they will be just as good, if not better, than the legendary version of the Pact Spirit at its default power. So with that, while sure, you could pay to win and make your character around 20-30% stronger with hundreds upon hundreds of dollars. All content in this game is not based around it, and I've had plenty of people who have spent thousands of hours in this game tell me that they've done all content just fine without spending a single dollar. If you're playing a strong build or a meta build, you can still do all content just fine. At the end of the day, it's an RPG, and your build choices, your gear, the amount of currency you spend to your builds, and all those other factors are going to play a significantly bigger role in your total power boost than some of these battle pets would ever give you. The other side of this coin is going to be the drop Pactspirits themselves. Unfortunately, these are a different story. While there are a few of these generic ones that are just good for pretty much all content, there are also some of these that specifically augment one mechanic in the game at a time that can become very, very powerful. For example, Professor Source, which is the newest drop Pact Spirit added this season, specifically augments towers and carjacking, the Season 9 mechanic. And if you were to spend money on her and get a level 6 version of her, I believe she basically effectively doubles the amount of loot that you would receive from doing that content at all times. The same is also true for a lot of these other characters that specifically affects one specific mechanic, to where the difference between having a level 1 version of them and having a level 6 version of them is somewhere around double the loot. With that said, you can keep rolling on them at any time that you want to. So if you really like, for example, Legion in PoE, you can go over to the past Pact Spirits, and let's say if this is the Legion Pact Spirit in PoE, I just keep spending more currency on her over a few seasons, and eventually I will, playing free to play, have a level 6 version of her if I really, really liked farming legions. At the same time, the thing about gacha systems like this is that not everyone's going to participate in them, and only a very, very tiny percent of the player base is actually going to have level 6 versions of these characters. The example I've been using to demonstrate all this is, let's say 1,000 people in Path of Exile were farming Legion content, and they all spent various amounts on the game and or got various amounts of luck. Out of those 1,000 people, probably 500 of them are not going to have the pet, meaning on average, they'll have maybe about 10-20% less loots per hour of Legion that they do. The other half of the player base is going to have the pet, so they'll have maybe 10-20% more loot per hour. Out of those 500 people that do have the pet, maybe 100 of them or so, maybe 200 of them or so are going to get a little bit lucky and maybe get a second copy or a third copy. So instead of getting 10-20% more loot per hour, they're going to get maybe 30-ish, or if even that. Then finally, out of those 500 people that have the pet, maybe 20 to 30 will have decided to swipe because they really like the character and they like the content that's for, or they've just been saving for several seasons and got decently lucky and eventually were able to get one, and those people are effectively generating double the loot. In total, if we want to look at the whole 1,000 people, that means that half the player base is generating about 10% more loot. And then there are 20 to 30 people who are generating double the loot. So instead of 1,000 people generating 1,100 people worth of loot, you have 1,000 people generating maybe 1,150 people worth of loot. So the point is, overall, from Legion in Path of Exile, you would have about 15% more total currency coming into the game from that mechanic, or whatever specific items come from that mechanic, in comparison to what the baseline would be without the pet. What I'm trying to show you here is that that's effectively a blip in the economy, and the overall prices of the things that you would get as rewards for whatever you're farming are basically not going to really be affected by people either swiping or getting a little bit lucky. Very few people actually end up putting money into gacha games, and while sure, some people could technically spend thousands, and while sure, those people could technically be getting significant more loot than you, they don't make enough of a difference in the economy for that to really impact you in any meaningful way. You're still going to be able to do whatever mechanic you want to just fine. And the only exception to this, I believe, is one specific farming strat out of like 30 that you can do in the game, to where if you don't have a specific Pactspirits, even at level 1, you do kind of get just thrown out of the market. So as long as you're okay with one of many, many, many farming strategies in this game requiring you to have a premium pet, it really doesn't make any difference at all. That's all there really is when it comes to pay to win in this game. My personal opinion on it is that, yeah, it's kind of cringe, but when you look at the numbers on it, the impact is basically irrelevant. So I really personally don't care. I don't think I'm ever going to spend a dime on this game. Who knows? Maybe that'll change if, again, I really like a mechanic and I just want to get more loot out of it. But more than fine just being free to play and having fun with what the game gives me. I haven't ever felt like I was struggling or that I needed to spend money on the game, and I've just been having a great time with my character and everything available to it. At the end of the day, keep in mind that this is an ARPG. So while sure you could spend to get a little bit of extra power or get a little bit of extra loot, if your character sucks, if your skills are horrible, if your build has no synergies in it, if your gear is awful, your character is just going to be a hot mess, and you spending several hundreds of dollars isn't going to fix anything. That's my opinion on it. That's the pay to win features in Torchlight, and I just simply wanted to discuss all of it and walk you through what is available in the game. And it's up to you to formulate your opinion if this is something that bothers you and you don't want to touch the game. If you have any questions on any of this, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, and I'd be more than happy to discuss any of this with you further at any point. Or you're more than free to stop by my stream, ask me any questions there, or come by our Discord and come hang out with the rest of the cuties and be a part of our community. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you cuties in the next video.